Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to take a cue from my last video. I got a lot of good feedback on that. Thank you all for that. And that was kind of the format of that was a little bit different. So I'm going to kind of take up the same format here where I'm going to show you a little video montage of my great gray owl photography that happened this fall. And then at the end of that little short segment there, I'm going to hop in and talk about just a few of the images that I made this fall that are some of my favorites or that are interesting in some way. So without further ado, we'll cut to the video montage. Enjoy that, and I'll see you at the end of that.
I'm walking down the street on clouds instead of the concrete. I'm dancing through. Everything's about to come my way. Nothing can ruin my day, no matter what anyone does or say. I smile at views. No, I don't care, 'cause I am on my way up, and I won't stop. I won't slow down. Steady on my feet, I'm gonna rise up. No, I won't stop. It is my time. 'Cause I know what it's like to be broke. I know what it's like when nothing goes your way. So I'm gonna let myself enjoy the fruit from this lucky day. Yeah, I am on my way up. I won't slow down. Yeah, I am on my way up. I won't slow down. I'm strolling down the street with all of my favorite songs on repeat. I'm dancing through. Everything's about to come my way, and I don't care if you spill coffee on me or if the sky is gray or blue. No, I don't care, 'cause I am on my way up, and I won't stop. I won't slow down. Steady on my feet, I'm gonna rise up. No, I won't stop. It is my time. 'Cause I know what it's like to be broke, yeah. And I know what it's like when nothing goes your way. So I'm gonna let myself enjoy the fruit from this lucky day. Yeah, I am on my way up. I won't slow down. Yeah, I am on my way up. I won't slow down. Yeah, I know what it's like to be broken, and I know what it's like when nothing goes your way. So I'm just gonna let myself enjoy the fruit from this lucky day. I am on my way up. I won't slow down, 'cause I am on my way up. I won't slow down. Yeah, I am on my way up. I won't slow down. I am on my way up. I won't slow down.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that little sequence there. That was fun making all those photos and videos this fall out in the field with the great gray owls here in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So let's roll right into some of the images that I made this fall, and let's get started. I think this is my favorite image, great gray owl image, that I made this fall, and I love this one. It's obviously been converted to black and white, very high contrast. It was a very high contrast scene to begin with direct light on that tree and the owl, and I moved around to position myself with the absolute darkest, most shady background I could find with that owl, and to really make that just lone tree and the owl stand out. And obviously it was very effective in doing that. And then I was there with that owl as it was hunting and looking around, and you can see it hear something, and it tilting its head, and it's doing that whole thing. And so it was there for a few minutes, and at one point it was just sitting there on this branch, and then an eagle flew by like probably a half a mile away, a long ways away, but this owl saw it, and it kind of, they get scared of other raptors nearby, and so it's kind of checking it out, the eagle far away, a little bit scared, but certainly being cautious kind of a look. So that's the gesture. Jay Maisel talks about gesture, light, gesture, and color. This is gesture. And so I have a bunch of this same image of the owl just sitting there. Some of them with it like looking intently at the ground, and all kinds of different poses that it was giving me. But this one in particular, when that eagle flew by, this was the most interesting gesture of that whole sequence, in my opinion. So I love this. I converted it to black and white, added a little more contrast to really just make the background go completely black. And it was very, very dark to begin with, so it was very easy to do that. But anyway, favorite image of this fall of a great gray owl right there. I hope you like that one. Let's see, the settings on that image this was taken with the Nikon Z7 and a 500 millimeter PF lens. So I shot that at f5.6, 1/2000th of a second, ISO 1600. Now I didn't need that fast of a shutter speed for sure with a static bird perched there, but I was making sure I had really high shutter speed for the takeoff shot eventually when it took off. I wanted to be ready for that as well. No compromise at all in image quality at ISO 1600. Thrilled with this. I'm going to print this and hang it up here in my house somewhere. Not right here. Does anybody care who these are all for? It's almost Christmas. Merry holidays, happy Tuesday, that's what today is. Happy December, whatever you're into celebrating. I hope you're celebrating every day. But anyway, we've got Steve's, Stephanie's, Vivian's, Sigmund's, Ruby's, and Lula's. So we're ready. Okay, anyway, on to the next image. Alrighty, here, this one, I posted this on Instagram last week. I love this one. This is a takeoff. This is a great gray owl in a snowstorm on a snow-covered branch with some remaining fall colors on the leaves, and just a very interesting pose here. So again, this one's about the gesture. Color here is obviously nice. The falling snow, everything about it is really great. And there was a sequence of these, as the wings went up and then it took off. And a bunch of those were really nice, good quality images. I liked this one. It's a little bit quirkier. One person made a comment in the Instagram story that about how large this owl's ears are, thinking of like a great horned owl with their little tufted ears. They're not actually ears, but and these look like just massive extensions of that. And I didn't see that until he pointed that out in the comment, and I see it now, and it's pretty funny. But anyway, I love this pose. It's a great image. Let's see here. I'm going to look up the technical specs there, the settings on that one. This one was taken with the 600 millimeter f4 and a Nikon D850. This one is f4, ISO 720, 1/1600th of a second. Lovely image. Okay, now here's a weird one. Now you might have seen, if you were paying attention during the little video intro there, you'd see that there was a little short video sequence of a great gray owl sitting on top of a vehicle. And this is that owl landing on top of that vehicle. So this particular day, there were maybe 4 or 5 people there. I was there with a client that day, and we found this owl, and it was quite close to the road. And of course, then when people drive by, it's on a dirt road, kind of middle of nowhere. But a couple of people drive by, and then of course they stop, they see an owl, and they want to photograph it. This owl was just flying around hunting, and it just landed on top of this car and continued hunting from the top of the car. So I thought that was a pretty unique, interesting image. Happened to catch it in a beautiful pose here as it just landed on the roof of that car, but still had its wings before it folded them back down to resume hunting there. So that was a pretty cool image, if you ask me. I mean, I won't print that and hang it in my house or anything, but I think it's pretty interesting. So Nikon D850, 600mm f4 at f4, 1600th ISO 720. So exactly the same settings as the previous image I showed you there. Okay, I really love this image as well. This one is much different in feel. It's very dark in here, and we had some fresh snow, not very much, but just enough to dust this beautiful old tree and a few of its branches. And the owl flew in and landed on that, and the forest was really dark, but the way the snow landed on there, it really gave a lot of contrast and lit up that beautiful branch, and then the three branches coming off, and then of course the owl sitting there looking straight at us here. So this one is kind of a graphic image with the big log, and then the 3 branches coming off of the log, and then of course the beautiful owl. Lovely setting and a beautiful, moody, dramatic scene there. Like this image a lot. Now this one was similar, Nikon D850 with the 600mm f4, 1/1000th of a second, f4, ISO 1000. And this would have been underexposed, probably a stop and probably minus 1.7 compared to what the meter would have said, because I really wanted that background to be dark, and otherwise it would have blown out all those highlights of the white snow. Alrighty, let's go on to the next one. This is a lovely takeoff image. This owl had been perched on this little branch here for quite some time, and it was hunting. And so my client and I was on a workshop again, and we had time to adjust ourselves here and get into a position where we could see where it was listening and it could kind of hear something. And so we had enough time to just kind of keep moving around and adjusting our position so that hopefully that owl would take off and come straight at us. And of course that doesn't always happen, but in this case it did. And so we waited and waited and waited, and eventually this owl took off, leapt off that branch, a couple of wing beats, and then dove down into the grass and caught a gopher, which was awesome. And this was my favorite image of that sequence, which is right after the takeoff. Just a lovely wing position. It's framed wonderfully with all the yellow leaves, nice soft light, and it worked out really nice. And that whole sequence was pretty good as it came straight at us and then dove into the grass. But this one was my favorite. It was the wing position, the intense stare, and then the way it's framed with those the fall foliage around there. So let's look at the technical settings there. What did we have? We had Nikon D850 with the 600mm f4 at f4, 1/2000th of a second, ISO 1100. So as I zoom in here, you can see even at 1/2000th of a second, you can see out here on the wingtips, they're a little bit blurred with motion. You know, the face is just dead nuts, perfectly tack sharp, lovely. And then I don't mind a little bit of motion blur in those wingtips at all. But it is pretty amazing that at 2,000th of a second even, you can still get motion blur out there on those wingtips. So the next sequence is going to be like 60 pictures long. I'll do a quick promo here. Got to pay the bills, you know. So I just want to mention that I do year-round workshops here in the Tetons, and as well as some other workshops other places. If you want to visit my website to see those, what I've got currently going on. But year-round workshops here in the Tetons, private workshops, 1 day, 2 days, however many days you want to do, whatever you want to focus on out here. So like right now, the moose action is just fantastic, fresh snow, bighorn sheep action is picking up, and so there's always something different going on here in the Tetons. So these workshops work out great. If you want to plan a trip, or if you're coming here, let me know and I'll take you out. I can teach you some photography, show you the sites, the locations, do all kinds of great stuff with these. Whatever, I tailor them just specifically to how you want to spend the day. So visit my website to learn more about those. And you know, Phantom of the North, my book, is available. Just makes a great gift. Just saying. Anyway, back to this sequence. So This was a great gray owl that had been hunting a meadow quite a ways away, and it landed on a not very pretty perch. So my client and I, we kind of stayed back out in this meadow to wait for the owl, give it some room and some time to hunt, and waiting for a better opportunity photographically. And so as we were hanging out on this meadow, all of a sudden it hopped up off the branch and started flying kind of at us, not straight at us, but it was probably like 80 yards away when it started, and then this whole flight sequence, when I look at the EXIF data of when the first image I shot to the last one, lasted 16 seconds. That's a long time for an owl to be in flight and to be able to make photographs of that whole sequence. So I'm just going to run through here and show you the entire sequence, and just kind of as they come out of the camera. And you'll see, I missed a couple. It's really hard. It's harder than you'd think, tracking a flying bird with a 600 millimeter lens that's, the bird's filling up the frame. So trying to keep it in focus and properly, where you want it in the frame. And, I had to stop shooting for a couple of seconds while I had to, as the bird came across here, I had to move around one of my tripod legs, step over it, and then reacquire the bird with in the lens and refocus on it, and then start shooting again. So it's kind of, there was a lot going on there, but this is probably the longest flight sequence I've ever shot on a great gray owl. So I'm just going to show you the whole sequence. I don't think any of these images are particularly spectacular, but it was a pretty spectacular scene out there. So I'm just going to show you. So here we are, the first image as it had came off that branch. And then started this flight, and we didn't know where it was going or what it was doing, but it just kind of came across, and you can see the background there is pretty nice, fall colors with some nice aspen trees in the back, and it's coming pretty much straight at us. We're getting a bunch of different looks at wing positions here as it's coming. It's not looking directly into the camera, but it's looking around. And it's looking way across the meadow here. I lose it for a second. I bring it back into the frame. And I'm just ripping off some shots here as it's flying along. The background gets a little bit better here with some bright yellow stuff behind it. And that 600 millimeter f4 just blurs. It totally destroys the background, which is fantastic. One of the great things about that lens, totally destroys that background. But so this is pretty nice, cool colors in the background, just full frame, didn't clip any wings or anything, which happens coming up, don't worry. But anyway, and it's hard just keeping these wingtips in the frame as it's moving and you're shooting, and the mirror is doing this, and so you're getting blackout and stuff, and so it's a lot harder than you think, but I managed to nail quite a few of these. I think I did a pretty good job, and then I kind of lose it here in a minute, I think, but this thing's still just flying straight at us. I start to clip a little wing there. Then he does some wing beats, and of course I can't fit him in the frame like that anymore. He's so close to me. This one, I was only shooting at 1,000th of a second there, so I'm going to back up one. You can see this one's just got a little bit of motion blur in that. When he gets that close to me, I should have been at 2,000th of a second there. I didn't realize he was going to get that close to me. But anyway, most of these turned out pretty darn good. And he's just still cruising it, and I'm still firing away, and just having a blast. Pretty sweet. I'm getting all kinds of different looks here. And most of these I would just throw away, but I kept all these just because I wanted to talk about it here. So now you can see it's totally changed. So this was after he had come across, and then I had to step out around my tripod leg and reacquire focus on him. And now you can see he's more of in a hover to go dive down. So now he's looking straight down at the ground. While he was flying, he heard prey in the grass and interrupted his flight just across the meadow and started hovering and then dove down because he heard a gopher in the grass. These things are incredible. So here he is. He beats his wings a couple of times and is hovering there as he's looking for the prey. And he's flying off a little bit here, and then oops, now he turns again. So he lost that prey, and now he does a turn. He turns back in, rehovers, locates his prey, and then goes into full dive mode here. Bang, 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 and then he goes down into the grass right there. Boom, and that's the last image of that sequence. So that was quite a wild sequence there of that that owl hunt sequence, but it was super fun, and I just wanted to show that to you because I've never seen one that lengthy before. So anyway, I'll end the video with that today. I hope you enjoyed this kind of alternate format. I'm going to get back out there. I've been away, I've been out of town, and I had a bunch of other stuff to work on, so I haven't been out doing very many vlogs. But I'm going to get out there here this week. I've got some time to get out and make some images and hopefully make some decent vlogs. So my next video will be back to regularly scheduled vlogging, I think. So again, I appreciate all the kind comments and the thumbs ups, and just appreciate that you watch the videos and enjoy them. So thanks again, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.